Welcome to RevCast, a civilization podcast focused on its console platforms. elthrasher,
Duke Lou, 1987.
ScottieX. Here we are. Welcome. It's been a little while. I can't remember all the funny things I said, but I'm elthrasher, and with me is ScottieX.
Okay.
And also, how are we going to call you today? Japyaknees?
Well, CB.
CB?
Yeah, CB. CB. My first name starts with a C, and my last name starts with a B.
Okay.
So.
CB, who is someone that I don't really know, because I haven't been around the forums lately, but you're active in PS3 land, doing tournaments and stuff, is that what I understand?
That is correct. I'm hosting a 8-man tournament that's in the semifinals right now on PS3.
That's great. What is your favorite civ to play, or what are your preferred civs?
My favorite civ is the Spanish. I just don't know how you can stop a galleon fleet. Unless you have those power civs. If I drop off 8 or 9 single legions with a galleon fleet, you can't do anything.
Yeah, that's a very strong attack. Are you doing the thing where you build a bunch of legions in Ancient and then hit Medieval just as you're rolling up to attack?
That's my strategy right there.
Is Spain allowed in your tournament?
Only when people that are not allowed are America and China, but we decided to take the Zulu out in the playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're quite a bit more powerful than the other, however many there are left. 14 or whatever.
It's a very cool thing to host and win your own tournament, so best of luck with that. What's the play style like? How are your games going?
Well, now, since it's in the finals, it's mostly aggression. It's mostly just build some horse armies, build some legions, and go kill them. That's what it's all about. That's it.
So you're mostly ending in the Ancient era?
Unless someone gets the Great Wall or something. Mostly, if you're playing against me, I'm trying to end it usually with legions.
Okay.
But if I get the Great Wall, I'll switch to the alphabet, writing, code of laws, literacy path.
Uh-huh.
But mostly it is ending in the Ancient. And it's so much based on map position. When you're playing against someone that's just as good as you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And
very, very true.
Civ selection, I guess, combination.
Yes, also Civ selection,
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, I've already used Spain, though. In the semifinals, I was down 2-1, so I had to go with my go-to team.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense. It's worth it.
I've got a PS2, but I've only been playing on the Xbox, really.
Oh, okay. You're back on the Xbox?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I got to get on there and play with you then, because, this is ridiculous. It's been like 4 months.
Got a few King titles over on the Xbox, and we're playing the 8-man tournaments. I guess the main tournament going on at the moment. There's also an Asian Cup.
That was my idea, to do a cup for every continent.
Yep.
I'm claiming the Antarctica Continental Championship until someone beats me. Just so you know.
Good choice.
Do you have a PS3, Thrasher?
No, I just have an Xbox. I still have it. It's not plugged in at the moment. I'm looking at it. I could plug it in, I suppose. Haven't done so all summer. Just been too busy. RevCast, of course, is my first love, so I'll always make time for that. I effectively have 2 full-time jobs in a band still. I'm married, so that takes some time, obviously.
Yeah. You literally don't. 2 full-time jobs. So all you do is really just, work and hang out with the wife and sleep, huh?
I don't know if listeners are that interested in this. I'm in 2 different soccer groups, and I also go to a kickboxing gym. I'm not actually fighting anyone, I'm just training. That helps me unwind, but gotta get the business off the ground, make millions of dollars, and then I can retire and play CivRev all the time. Yep. Part of my problem is that the last couple of times that I got on, there was nobody I knew that was on, so I tried playing some ranked games, and I match up with some guy who's never seen a boomstick before, and 5 minutes later he's accusing me of cheating and stuff like that. And my time is so precious these days, I just don't want to waste it on something like that. So I should go and look once in a while and see if there's someone cool to play with. That would definitely be worth it.
If you just drop a post online, then people will come to meet you at the time of the post, because people want to play you. They want to get their ass whipped.
I'm probably too rusty.
That's what all the guys say when they come back.
Yeah.
Then they go and cane everyone.
Yeah, it's like riding a bike. When you go into a ranked game, you're usually going to play somebody that's not good, although sometimes you'll bump into someone that's good. But mostly it's people that never attack you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same on Xbox is that a lot of the more casual players are probably more used to something like Civ 4 or Civ 5, which is a long game where you spend a lot of time developing your empire and then maybe go to war later, and you're actually kind of like thinking about what creating a civilization's like, as opposed to just like, I want to kill you and win this game and then play another game, right. Which is more the CivRev way.
I really, really love to play good players because I know I have to have counters ready. I know they're going to have counters ready. It's like playing high school ball and then playing in the pros. It's just such.
Yeah.
The funnest thing is going into 500 BC and we're still having Legion Wars when you're playing against someone really good. I mean, it's so fun playing against.
500 BC. I've been in like 1200 AD and we're still in the ancient era, running around. Like,
I meant to say AD.
Oh, okay.
500-600 AD and every turn a unit is dying. So much fun.
Those are good games. This is the rare few where you actually get into later eras of the game and you're playing against someone who's good and you're both hitting each other really hard, and you have to have the time though.
Maybe if I was playing on Xbox, that would happen more often because the number of good players is...
Well, I think there's just more players, period.
I'm calling it early on. When I'm behind, I'm not forcing someone to go and churn out tanks to come and kill me. And I know that they're a good player, and I'm basically not playing not good players most of the time.
That's another good point because if I'm all over somebody and they know it's over, they're going to call it. But first, if I'm playing against Star or Civ Star, which he's not a forum member, but he's really good, or Mario... I'm going to sit around and just wait for you to kill me.
Yeah, right. Most of us have played the long and very easy game enough times that we don't really mind when our opponent quits.
Right.
Play single player if you want to see tanks rolling around. I mean,
well, a lot of these will be. I know the other guy's got the lead. I'm going to chuck together my legion, stick them on a boat, send them over there.
Yeah.
This is absolutely sell out everything on the last attack.
Give the Hail Mary, see if it works.
Yeah,
and sometimes it does.
Doesn't work. It's going to be 2000 AD before I've got anything.
Yeah.
Because I got no production, no gold.
The tone of the forums lately, it seems to be a lot of people saying they're not coming back to the forums anymore because there's so much drama. And have you been seeing that, Scotty?
Yeah, there are some people who guess have a tendency to grate on other people's nerves, and that's exploded in a couple of incidences over the recent period. There've been a couple of games where people have done things where there's been an argument resulting from it, and neither side's been willing to compromise these sort of scenarios. Because with our gentleman's rules and things, there's always some scope for a little bit of debate, like whether 20 tiles and another civ on an island is an island.
Right. Like Xbox had a CivRev league going for a bunch of weeks, and it kind of fell apart. The guy that was hosting it, he said he's taking a break, and
well, that's too bad.
There was one incident in there where people basically refused to play the game that he'd set up, which I thought was kind of undermined the tournament a bit there. And then had one of the game incidents, which resulted in him getting a bit upset, I think.
Well, let me just say this then, listeners. The only thing that we play for is respect. So the best way to earn that is to always just be fair. And if your opponent feels like, I didn't get a fair start or there was some problem with the game or something like that, go ahead and offer a rematch. Because if you're that good, you can win it again, and you're just playing to play anyway. So
you're not getting any money.
That's right. You're not getting any money. It's not that big a deal. I mean, the whole reason that we started having these tournaments is because the leaderboards are such a joke. I mean, I guess the PS3 leaderboards don't even work, but the Xbox leaderboards, they more or less work, but there's always a cheater at the top of them. I don't know if there is these days, but traditionally there has been.
I think the guy at the top at the moment is a fair player, but there are some cheaters down there.
Okay. And to get there, it's just a slog, because it's not like a ladder system, just a leaderboard, so you just have to put the games in to get to the top. And I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone who's done that, and I've been up there, and if you like to play a lot, that's great, but it's not the kind of thing where you can say, I got to number 1, ergo I'm the best, because that's not how it works. It means that you're okay, or somewhere between okay to good, maybe great, and you played a lot. Yeah. And no matter how you're good, if you don't play a whole lot, you're not getting anywhere near the top. Mm-hmm. And that's why we stepped away from that, because it's not fun, really. Yeah. I mean, it could be fun, but people wanted to have quality games. And so, I mean, if you can't maintain that, if you can't be part of that, then go back and play ranked games, and I promise not to make too much fun of you.
Yeah. On the PS3, the ranked games is once you get to around the high 1300s, and this is in head-to-head, I can't even join a free-for-all game. Like, every time I join a free-for-all game in ranked, it's always an empty room. It won't let me join someone's room for some reason.
It's trying to do matchmaking. It's trying to match you to someone of your skill level, but it's just failing.
It's matching the other 4 guys. Or whatever.
Because on Xbox, as far as I've ever been able to tell, there's no matchmaking at all. You just play whoever's on.
Okay, so that's why the free-for-all works on Xbox. On PS3, if I make a new username, then all of a sudden I can join free-for-all matches, but they always freeze. That's something else. But in head-to-head, once you get to like 1375, close to 1400, I can no longer join a game. Every room I go to in head-to-head is empty, and I have to wait for someone to join me.
Morte's new strategy?
One of the things that CB and I were noticed in that, which we haven't really been paying much attention to previously, was when you take the magnifying glass off of your unit and watch the flickering, and he raises that as one of the key things that he looks at the beginning of the game. Now we sort of realize that he's been paying a lot of attention to the flickering, and you can sort of see how when there's 2 quick flicks, then that may mean that they've got a galley out. When it flicks, a certain number of times, that they've probably created a second warrior or something. All this sort of information we start to tell things.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. I never knew that. I just read that.
Yeah. Even though it's kind of giving you information that maybe you shouldn't know, you can't really call it cheating because you can't avoid seeing it sometimes.
Well, never mind that. It's not like this is some kind of act of God or something like that. This is the programmers programmed it to do that. So there it is, I guess. I'm a programmer myself. Things don't something they did on purpose. It's not just that magnifying glasses pulse when stuff happens. That's really interesting. He's putting it on a public forum for everyone to know about. So
some of the other guys seem to know about it and were kind of like, oh yeah, I knew about that. A lot of other people like ourselves, they were like, oh really?
Half of them just wanted to pretend they knew.
Yeah, it's quite possible too. So you talked a lot in there about rushing of units versus hammering them out. Yeah,
I was reading that. I didn't manage to completely read the entire thread. I skimmed it pretty well, and I read some of the more interesting parts. And I think that, it's really good advice. I mean, a lot of us sort of play that way, but for someone new, like when should you gold rush things and all that? I mean, I think that's some really solid stuff in there.
Pretty easy to get overexcited with your strategy. You want to get to some point with some units or whatever, That's all generally. But there isn't really an urgent region to do it. And then you rush your unit and go, okay, I'm sending him over there. In reality, you're just hammering out a couple of turns and you could have had the gold to defend yourself when he sneak attacks you on the other side.
Just based on error multipliers alone, there's obviously a lot of strategic value in rushing units at the right time. That once you have 5 techs, it now costs 50% more to rush your units. Once you have 14 techs, it's another 50% on top of that. That's one of my favorite ways to win is show up with a bunch of legions just as soon as my opponent gets to 5 techs, and now, your archers cost half as much as my entire legion army or whatever. Yep. A lot of good advice there. I did not know about the magnifying glass trick, probably just because I don't pay enough attention. What else is in there?
His tech path, he talks about bronze working and elf fighting coal, which is in a way, depending on the map, is relatively typical for us too, probably. But he seems to target irrigation very fast after that, and literacy, according to the strategy.
The main problem I have with a strategy like that is that you're going to get irrigation. If you get pottery, masonry, irrigation, that's 100 beakers. It's 100 work units. And if you're doing, 12 per turn, then that's 8.5 turns. Just for that, nothing else. If your opponent comes and attacks you when you're not finished with that, you can't finish that, and you've wasted some significant percentage of 8 turns. So if you're going to go and do that, and I think that Morte would never make this mistake, but someone reading his strategy might, is that you can't go and sit there and tech irrigation unless you have control of your land. You have to have your choke points, or you have to have your roving horse army or armies, or you have your legions watching out or something like that. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, well, he hasn't found me, so I guess I'm safe, because then CB is going to show up with a galleon fleet, or you're just going to get destroyed, because that is such a significant investment. When are you hitting irrigation in this strategy? Maybe turn 25 or turn 30 or something like that. If you spent 6 or 7 turns of 100% of your output going toward tech on a tech that you don't need, that doesn't help you, you're done. You're going to lose.
As stated, we'd tend to be more aggressive and get the bronze and iron working.
And the thing about literacy, it's incredibly useful if in a longer game, depending on what you're going for. Like, I don't know if the Lightning Cats strategy is very popular anymore.
Not so much, but basically for the reason that Mort also goes into somewhere in there, where basically a whole lot of legions tends to beat rather lesser amounts of cats, because partly quite often to get cats you're going into evil.
Much.
And the legions cost half as much, and you don't have to tech the tech and all of this sort of thing. And at the end, you've got more than twice as many legions turning up and just attack.
Twice as many sooner. Yeah, that's kind of what I always felt. But the catapults can still be good if you're going up against someone who's going to build archer armies or something. So
I mean, they've always worked well for me for putting away. They weren't very good, but but most of my games try and play the better people. And there you turn up with your catapult army, it's going to hurt you, even if just that 3 legion armies, you attack one of them, kill one, then they've got 2 attacks on you. And 1 catapult army attack 1, and that's it. Now you've only got 2.
Unless I'm playing the Aztecs, because then it's just, you might just soup up their army to some kind of leadership, great general archer army.
Right, then you would want to use catapults. Also, if you're playing against somebody who's going to build archer armies on a hill, and sometimes if people play very, very defensively, I might just expand in tech rather than attack at all. But if someone's defensive and you're not sure that you can bust in with legions, I mean, a 9 attack versus 15 or 18 is pretty tough.
Also, if they're building a lot of archer armies, you probably got them anyway, honestly.
Yeah, agreed. Then that's where you want to think about literacy and irrigation and getting those if you can, and rocket up the tech tree, get 15 cities, maybe 10 cities. I don't know.
Especially if you've got a nice target like the Indian cheap settler bonus or something like that.
Oh yeah, you got something like that coming up.
What about Morte's strategy in particular? Did you say, I just don't do that when you read it? Is there anything on there where you said, I would do it differently?
I'm only looking at irrigation and literacy opportunistically. I don't protect those, really. If my opponent wants to go and get them, I'm going to try to make him wish that he had put those work units into something else. Really my attitude there. So if the dust settles and I'm in a good tech position, I think I can get there sooner and I feel safe and I don't have a really good opportunity to attack, then and only then will I consider going for irrigation and literacy. But otherwise, just not that concerned with it. And even Code of Laws is going to be not an immediate goal, but just depending on how things shake out. Like, I don't have an easy kill, or I tried it and it didn't work. That's when I'm thinking about Code of Laws. It's not something that I'm trying to get to in the first 20 turns.
It seemed like he was kind of leaning towards that. Like, he kind of wanted to get to Code of Laws a little earlier.
Right, and he's really good at playing that way, in that he defends very, very well. And so his strategy is often to just sort of win by getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can't stop him, and you know that you have no choice but to throw everything you have at him, and it fails, and if you want to hang around and watch him get tanks, come and kill him with the tank, it's probably not worth the time. That's the way he plays, in my experience. It's a really good strategy for that. Even though I'm known to have a good long game, I don't always trust that the long game will go my way, and so a lot of the time I will try to win the short game.
Overwhelmed with legions, huh?
Yeah, or horsemen, or galley drop him in turn 5, or that's a favorite.
He has another good point in there on the in terms of the battles where you're dropping off your legions and things. He talks about if you're dropping off the defensive unit with it, that you attack with some other unit, maybe part of your army or whatever, and wound his defensive unit, and then attack again and pick up the offensive unit so that you can actually follow through and kill it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea, because sometimes someone has a counter right behind the city, and when you take it with your legion, now your legion dies from his legion or whatever else it is. I think the number one point that I liked about his strategy is that when he drops off those 3 legions in your territory, it's not necessarily about taking cities. It's about putting you in full defensive mode.
Yep.
And you have to build so many counters. And he might not even bring them to attack you, but he's just your whole game off now.
Right. And, very few players are able to defend and counter attack in terms of defend their own cities, meanwhile launch an attack at you. So that means that back home, he can do whatever he wants. He can send settlers unescorted, and he doesn't have to defend his cities hardly at all. That's what I like to do as well. It's a great way to just build up an unbeatable... The number one thing in my games against Morte, and I've won a few, but I've only played about 10 games.
You don't have a long enough track record to know if you're so much more better than him or something.
I'm not going to make any claims about being better than him. The number one thing about him is that he is so incredible at picking up gold off the map. He just gets to 100 gold so quickly all the time. He has a really good sense of which directions to go and how to get it quickly. So doing that enables him to build an offense very quickly and then tech code of laws right after that. And he sends the offense at you and you're like, I'm getting attacked. And, so you're busy with that. And he builds a bunch of cities. And you finally get the legions off your territory, and you're like, okay, now where are we? And he's, 15 techs ahead. I would have to say at this point that any game in which you can get anything into the enemy territory, even just a warrior or something like that, it's very valuable. If your enemy's lands are totally clear, then that's a big problem for you.
There's one other advantage in here, which is one that's Morpok used against me in a recent game, and I think multi/Cheva-Setkins is quite a big user of this sort of thing. There seems to be something in the game which tries to let you win if you lose a battle, it tries to let you win the next one. So, like, for example, Morpok lands 3 legions next to my city, attacks with 1 unit, and if he gets a losing seed, then he armies up and attacks me and tries to get the win with the army against pretty much even odds. But if he gets what looks like a winning battle odds, then he goes and attacks with the other one and then attacks with the army.
I've heard people say that on the forum, that if you get a loss and the odds were in your favor, that if you attack again, or say it was an even battle and you win or you lose, then the next time you'll win. Over time, it's going to basically be 50%. If you attack 15 to 15 and you do it 1,000 times, it's going to be around 500. I don't think the game actually corrects, oh, well, he just lost. You know what I mean? I've heard that on the forum. I mean, you feel like that's true?
There was a while back, Duke and I, were you involved in that, Scotty? We did some testing. We did like a whole bunch of battles. We tried to figure out what the odds actually were. All I have to say is that it's more complicated than it seems. I kind of agree with you, CB, that there's not a lot to that. Because it's known that it is still random. So even if the odds get better when you do a certain thing, doesn't mean you're going to win.
Yeah.
That much I can guarantee.
But I don't think it's 100%. I mean, Morpok obviously plays this way, and Multi obviously plays this way, and I've done it a few times, and it does seem to work.
Yeah.
Whether that's my imagination or not.
I'm not totally convinced that that's a thing.
Over time, it just even out, so it just feels like, hey, they gave that back to me.
It should. We came up with a fairly complicated theory where we thought we had it kind of figured out, and then we did a bunch of tests. So we did like 100 battles, and the results were not very convincing in terms of what we thought they would be, and they weren't just face value, like you win half the time, you lose half the time. It was something else. I mean, so either that or we just got some really weird results. I mean, we only did 100 times. We didn't do 1,000 times.
Well, if I remember correctly on that, we got, and I think a few people have already suspected this, basically that the 3 hit point unit seemed to win more often than the 2 or 1 hit point unit.
Oh, definitely.
Yes. But the relationship seemed to be in between what you'd expect if it was every hit point being decided, and what you would expect if it was the face value odds. Mm-hmm. So if it was every hit point, you'd say there was 50-50 for the first unit of the Legion, let's say, and 50-50 for the second unit, and 50 for the third unit against the 3 defense archer, let's say. But it wasn't that. It was in between the 2. What it seemed to me was as if they'd somehow just ad hoc removed one type of battle animation, but I'm not sure.
One thing that I found interesting is that you can lose a 3-1 a lot more often with ship battles for some reason. Because I play with the Spanish a lot, and it's so risky to attack a galley.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
I read on a website way back in 2008 or 2009 or whatever, and the guy was going, "Yep, you lose far more often in the ship battles against the odds." And I was like, people making that sort of statement way back then.
That could be true, but it's also going to be more memorable. I mean, if you attack 3-1 and win, you'd just be like, well, that's what's supposed to happen. But when you lose, you're like, what?
Oh, that happened to me. I was playing against a guy. He had America, and I already had 5 techs with Spain, so I attacked this galley. I was attacking with some legions or something, and I hadn't formed a fleet yet. I lost my galley, and then 2 turns later, I came and did the same attack and lost again. So maybe that's why, because maybe that just seared in my brain that I lost 3-1 odds within 2 turns. It just
and against America, that's just insult to injury.
Right.
There's a video out there in which Sid Meier's, that was when Civ 5 was in production, and they were using CivRev in a lot of their examples and in their thinking, and he talked about the process that they had in figuring out battle odds. I guess they were testing in focus groups or something like that, and they really put a lot of effort into making battles come out the way people would expect them to come out, as opposed to just, it's 12 versus 12, flip a coin. You got heads, okay, you win. Instead, they did something to it, and I don't know what, and they're not saying. Whether or not they doing something a little weird, or whether they really hit the formula so that even though once in a while it seems strange to us, that it would seem much stranger if they hadn't done that. I have no idea. I can't say. But they did do a lot of things to it. And one of the things that he mentions is that if you had like a 1 to 1.5 warrior versus a warrior on a hill, for example, that's going to have closer odds, closer results than a 10 to 15 or a 20 to 30. The 30 is going to beat the 20 more than the 1.5 is going to beat the 1.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. I mean, well, obviously it's true. He said it, but I experienced that plenty of times. I think that was a good idea because, 100 to a 50 doesn't feel like it should lose more than a 2-1 should.
What about with the pikemen poke bombers and break them?
That's silly.
Some of them should just be outright impossible.
I don't know. If you're a really good pikeman, you might be able to.
Or, if you got that, you're playing against a turtler and he has a great leader with the English and he has a leadership.
Oh, yeah.
Engineer, archer army, and he shoots your planes out there.
Bombers.
They can go up to like 72 defense or something like that. Or, I mean, he's the English. You could be in the modern era with a battleship fleet and have like 100 defense. Archers.
Yeah.
I've done some investigation, and I have found out what Firaxis Game Studios, makers of all things Civilization, what they're up to. It's not a console game, so that's the bad news. It's not CivRev 2, kind of a small shop, and they're still supporting Civ 5. But what they are working on is a version of Civ that will run in your web browser. The technology has really advanced a long way, and I think that this is a really very viable kind of thing. They did the Facebook game. I think the potential to do something that's a lot like CivRev is there. I mean, I think that you wouldn't want to do something like Civ 5 where you create a game that takes 12 hours to play and runs in a web browser. But something like CivRev where you play in half an hour, I could totally see that working. I think it's a pretty exciting thing, and I think that that's looking ahead to deliver games in new ways. But eventually, we'll just play games in web browsers. So that's the scoop. I think it's a world exclusive. I haven't been able to find anything about this anywhere else. So there you go. Can wrap it up pretty soon. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Scotty, you gonna give me a game tonight or what?
What, you're going to be on straight after this, are you?
Yeah, just go to the chat room.
Yeah.
Let's finish out the show and then talk about that.
Okay.
All right, so this has been another thrilling episode of RevCast. I'm elthrasher. We also had ScottieX and CB. See you next time.
For more information about RevCast, sibling shows PolyCast and Modcast, or about PolyCast in general, log on to the series' official website at thepolycast.net.
Record date
September 8th, 2012.
Civilization Revolution sound clips. Copyright Take Two Interactive. Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.